the major scale you're playing without shifting position on the guitar. This next example is a good demonstration of that. In exercise number 55 out of the book, the key changes several times, and this is common in jazz, and I'll be changing the major scale that I'll be playing from an A flat to a C, and then to an E flat scale, and then finally to a G major scale. But you'll notice when I'm playing the solo that even though I'm changing key, I won't change position that much. I'll just be changing different forms of the major scale which I'll be using. Also, it's probably a good time to point out that you'll notice when I'm playing eighth notes that I'm using an alternate picking technique, and that means that I'm playing the first eighth note down and the second eighth note up. This is regardless of whether the second eighth note changes string or if it's on the same string, wherever it might happen to be, I'm still using an alternate pick or a down-up stroke. Now, if I play an eighth note that comes on the second half of the beat, that is an eighth rest followed by an eighth note, then I'll play that eighth note up. So after the rest, 2, 3, 4, 1, you notice I started with an upstroke. Also, when I play triplets, depending on where those triplets are located, or whether I'm going down the strings or whether I'm going up the strings, that might influence the direction of the pick. But as a rule, most of the time I will play the triplets down, up, down. And then the eighth notes with the down, up stroke. This is exercise number 55 using some different major scales. The minor 7 flat 5 chord, or the half diminished chord as it's sometimes called, we're going to learn three forms. One with the root on the 6th string, like this, which is a dead string chord. One with the root on the 5th string, played like this. And another with the root on the 4th string, which is played with the 1st finger and barring the 3rd finger across 3 strings, like this. This has the root on the 4th string. These are fairly common chords in jazz guitar, particularly if you're playing in a minor key. Exercise number 58 from the book is in the key of A minor and uses the B minor 7 flat 5 chord with the root on the 6th string. Against the minor 7 flat 5 chord, a good trick to know is that you can play the major scale in your improvisation, which is 1/2 step or 1 fret above the name of the minor 7 flat 5 chord. So if someone is playing an E minor 7 flat 5 chord, you could play an F major scale in your improvisation. And this exercise, number 61 from the book, does just that. Against the E minor 7 flat 5 chord, the F major scale is played. Now we're going to learn how to play some minor scales. There are several different varieties of minor scales, and the first one we're going to learn how to play is called the natural minor scale. Now this is built by taking a major scale and lowering the 3rd, the 6th, and the 7th degrees of the scale to form a natural minor scale. And there are several patterns for the natural minor. This first one has its root on the 6th string with the 1st finger. And like the major scales, these are movable and can be played all over the neck. Whatever the name of the root is, that will name the scale. So this would be an A natural minor scale. And then notes beyond the octave. This is a natural minor scale with the root on the fifth string beginning with the first finger, so this would be D natural minor. Notice that I went above the root on that scale also. Now these scales are used with minor type chords, or also chords from a minor key. In example number 63 from the book, this progression is in the key of A minor, and the A natural minor scale is used. I'm going to be using the pattern which begins on the sixth string with the first finger. The harmonic minor scale is the natural minor scale, but it has the raised seventh degree. When it's ascending and descending, the seventh degree of the scale is raised. Let me play a couple of patterns for you of the harmonic minor. This is the harmonic minor with the root on the sixth string beginning with the first finger. If you go beyond the octave, play those two notes. The harmonic minor with the root on the fifth string with the first finger will be played like this. In exercise number 66, the scale that is used is the D harmonic minor scale. Even though the chords that are played might be different chords from the key of D minor, the one scale is used throughout the entire solo, that being the D harmonic minor. The melodic minor scale is built by taking a natural minor scale and raising the sixth and seventh degrees when you're ascending, but then they are natural when descending. So a descending form of the melodic minor scale is the same as the natural minor. We play a couple of fingerings for you showing you the melodic minor. The ascending form of the melodic minor with the root on the sixth string would be played like this, beginning with the first finger. If you go beyond the octave, descending, this form with the root on the first string with the first finger would be played this way. The melodic minor with the root on the fifth string, beginning with the first finger, ascending, is played this way. The descending form of this scale, beginning with the fourth finger on the first string, is played like this. Exercise number 70 is in the key of A minor, and the notes that are used for the improvisation for the solo all come from the A harmonic minor scale. The jazz minor scale is the same as the melodic minor, except for the fact that when it's descending, the sixth and seventh degrees are still raised. So the jazz minor scale with the root on the sixth string, beginning with the first finger, would be played this way. you extend beyond the octave, put those two notes. The jazz minor scale beginning with the root on the 5th string will be played this way, with the 1st finger. The jazz minor scale, like all of the other minor scales, can be used with minor chords or chords from the minor key. This is particularly useful if you're playing in a song and it goes from a minor chord to a major chord, which is a 4th away. Now this happens in exercise number 72 from the book, which is in the key of A minor, and the notes used for the solo come from the A jazz minor scale. Major scales and minor scales can be combined if the song changes from a major to a minor key. Example number 77 is a good example of this because it's in A minor and it's also in the key of B flat. Now over the sections of A minor I'll be playing the A harmonic minor scale, the one which begins with the root on the 6th string, that with the 1st finger, that fingering. And then when it goes to B flat, I'll be playing the B flat major scale, which would begin with the root on the 6th string with the 4th finger. So you'll notice that it changes back and forth between major and minor using the tonal center concept. Now tonal center means that you simply find out what key you're playing in from the chords that are being used, and then you play the scale that matches the key. This is exercise number 77, beginning in A minor. Knowing how to transpose or change the key of a song can be very helpful if you're playing with a vocalist or another person who wants to play a particular piece in a different key. Now learning how to transpose can be made quite simple if you use the chord clock. Now you'll notice on the chord clock on the outside you can see major chords, and on the inside you can see minor chords. Now in order to transpose, simply find the 1st chord of your original song on the clock. For example, if the 1st chord is B flat, find the B flat on the clock, then change it to something simple or the other key that you want to transpose the song to. For example, if you want to transpose it from B flat to G, after finding your 1st chord B flat, now find the new chord that you want to go to, like G, and see how far you have to go from the original chord on the clock to the new key. Now in the case of going from B flat to G, counting B flat as 1, you have to go 4 moves clockwise to get to the new key, G. Now once you've changed the 1st chord on the clock from the old key to the new, change every chord in the song the same direction and distance on the clock, and you will be transposed automatically into that new key. For example, going B flat to G is 4 steps clockwise on the clock. So if the next chord, say, were E flat, you would move that 4 steps clockwise. That would go to C. And if you continue that process through the entire song, you will transpose the entire piece of music from the key of B flat to G. Now if a chord that you're transposing doesn't happen to show up on the clock, suppose the chord were B flat major 9. Simplify the chord and just use B flat and transpose that over to G. Now if you know the G major 9, then you can put the major 9 back on, but if you don't know it, simply play the reduced chord and play G. Knowing how to use this can be very helpful, and it can be made very simple by using the chord clock to transpose. Also notice on the chord clock that with the minor chords on the inside, when you change a minor chord to another minor chord, make sure that you stay on the inside of the clock, that you don't cross from the outside of the clock to the inside. So the major type chords transpose on the outside, minor type chords transpose on the inside of the clock. At the very foundation of your understanding of jazz should be a knowledge and an understanding of the blues progression. The most common blues progression is probably the 12-bar blues progression, and that's the one we're going to be playing. The chords which are used in the blues are the 1, 4, and 5 chords. Now the 1 chord is the chord which has the same letter name as the key. And the 4 chord is 4 letter names up the scale from the 1 chord. So if you're playing in the key of C, for example, then the 4 chord would be C, D, E, F. And the other chord in the blues is the 5 chord. Now that's 5 letter names up the scale, up the major scale from the 1 chord. So in the key of C, the 5 chord would be C, D, E, F, G. So the 3 chords used in the blues would be C, F, and G. The 1, 4, and 5 chords in that key. Now the formula for the 12-bar blues would be to play 4 bars of the 1 chord, then 2 bars of the 4 chord, then 2 bars of the 1 chord, then 1 measure of the 5 chord, 1 measure of the 4 chord, and 2 measures of the 1 chord. Now this is the very basic standard 12-bar blues progression. Of course, there are a lot of variations of this, which we'll be talking about some of them. Now the chords which are used in the blues are the 1, 4, and 5. And a common variation is, rather than just play major chords, to embellish those chords by playing 7th chords. An embellishment means that you add different tones to the chord to enhance the color, make them sound a little more interesting. So a 7th chord is very common in the blues, and not for any theoretical reason, simply because it sounds like the blues. It's got some dissonance in it and has that blues-like quality. You're not going to play the blues using a major 7 chord. It doesn't sound like the blues. And so to play a 7th chord would give you that dissonance and that blues-type sound. So all of the chords in the blues are embellished with the 7 or some other chords we'll talk about. Exercise number 104 is an illustration of just the basic 12-bar blues progression in the key of C. A common variation on the 12-bar blues progression would be to insert a measure of the 4 chord in the second measure and to play a measure of the 5 chord in the last measure. This measure of the 5 chord in the last measure is usually played if the progression is going to be repeated, and start over again, and then the last time through, after the last measure of the 5 chord, play the 1 chord again. Exercise number 106 is an illustration of the 12-bar blues in the key of C. And I'll repeat the 12-bar blues progression and play the C7 on the end. Exercise number 109 is a 12-bar blues in the key of A, which has a variation on the 12-bar blues that's fairly common. It also uses chord embellishment. The variation, in the middle of the progression, you can hear the A go chromatically to F sharp, then up to B7, E7, A7, and then E9 before the repeat. But after taking the repeat in the last measure, instead of playing E9, you'll hear the A7 chord. This is a fairly common variation on the 12-bar blues, and I would recommend that you transpose it, be able to play this progression in several keys. Exercise number 110 is a 12-bar blues progression in the key of A, which has another variation. In the middle, you can hear the A7, go to B minor, to C sharp, to C minor, then down to B minor 7, and E9. This also has a nice turnaround, a back cycling turnaround on the last two measures where you'll hear C sharp, F sharp, B minor 7, E9, then the progression will repeat, and after repeat, end with an A7 chord. Exercise number 110, a variation on the 12-bar blues.